Hi everyone, good evening to all of you. Today we are going to start with another session for NABARD 2021. Now, one more thing, this session is going to be useful not only for NABARD but also for the upcoming RBI examination as well as SEBI examination. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि खाली NABARD में कर लिया और हो गया. If you're preparing for RBI, if any of you preparing for SEBI, then also this session is going to be very useful for you because English descriptive remains the same in all the examinations. The orientation remains exactly the same. Okay. What am I going to do today? I'm going to start with live answer writing. तो मैंने एक पूरा टेस्ट क्रिएट किया है. I have created an entire test. What I'm going to do is I will pick up number one, three essay topics, and I will write those essay topics. First, I'll rather write one essay topic. Then we'll move to the Pressy. Then the comprehension based upon the Pressy article only. I'm not taking two separate articles because we have a limitation on what you can read online. And finally, I will move again back to the essays and I will write two essays again. Okay. So this is what I'm going to do. I hope you can see me and hear me clearly. Just let me know. Give me a thumbs up because I see something else out here. I see no data available, and that's why I'm a little concerned. तो एक बार बता दीजिए please if you can see me and hear me clearly. So this is just session number 2. We are going to have more than 26 sessions, so you have to be ready. I see less number of students here. कुछ लोग थक गए मुझे लग रहा है एक ही क्लास में because these sessions are heavy, these sessions are long. So it's obvious that a lot of students get tired. But I think it's going to be a beautiful session. Live में लिखूंगा. It is certainly going to help you understand what am I thinking, what is going on in my head when I'm writing, and how do I plan. I'll keep explaining to you why am I writing whatever I'm writing. Okay. So let us start with the session. So here you can see the blank screen. First of all, I'm going to start with an essay, and there is a beautiful essay that I picked up today. The title of the essay is, if you want, you can write together as well. You can write on your own as well, because my speed of writing is not going to be very fast because I'll be explaining a lot of things simultaneously. So if you want, you can write simultaneously as well. The topic is inequality can be reduced by the power of the market rather than the government. Beautiful topic. It talks about inequality relevant for not only RBI examination, but not only for NABARD examination, sorry, but also RBI and SEBI. Okay. Fake sofa. Yes, there is a fake sofa in the background. Okay, let's move back to the topic. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I will start writing the essay. First of all, let us try and understand the topic before we start writing. It says inequality can be reduced by the power of the market rather than the government. What are the keywords here? Number one, inequality, the best keyword. And we can start by explaining what inequality is. So this is a short note that I'm making. I will remove this short note once I start writing. Okay. Explain the meaning of inequality or define inequality. This is what I can do, right? Can be reduced by the power of market rather than the government. Power of the market. So market force is next and government is the third keyword here. In such an essay, in fact, in any essay, you have to make sure that you are rational, that you are balanced in your approach. Okay. That is very important. And the same goes here. Although the essay topic is very polarized because it says that inequality is reduced or can be reduced by only the market force but not by the government. However, the reality is that inequality, if you want to remove inequality as a nation, the market as well as the government have to work simultaneously. That is a rational approach, right? That is what happens in all the countries. It is not just the market that determines or helps in reducing inequality. In fact, it is more about the governmental effort. Okay. So we are going to go against the topic, but we have to write in a certain way that it does not feel like it. So what do we say? We say that this is inequality. This is how the market can reduce inequality, and this is how the government can reduce inequality. So, in short, we are going against the topic, but we are not mentioning it specifically, saying that oh, the topic is wrong. Inequality is not cannot be reduced only by the market, but it needs the support of the government as well. We're not saying that outrightly. Okay, we don't say that outrightly because we don't want to go against the topic directly. We don't want to start that entire debate whether we are going for the topic or against the topic. Okay, let's start with the introduction. As I have mentioned previously also, what is the keyword? The keyword is inequality. So you define the keyword, that is number one. You define the keyword, that is your first method or first way of writing the introduction. Or why, you can answer the question of why the keyword is important, why inequality is so important. You can write about that as well. So you can start with any one of these. I think easier one out here which can be explained briefly is what is inequality. So I would rather go with that. So what is inequality? Inequality refers to the phenomena 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 of unequal or unjust, because social justice is an important aspect of inequality. So I'm using those keywords. Inequality refers to the phenomena of unequal or unjust distribution of resources and opportunities among members of a given society. Okay, so this is what I've written here. Okay, so I've just defined inequality very briefly. Now, I would want to differentiate or define both economic inequality as well as social inequality, because my explanation, my points are also going to be on both economic as well as social aspects of inequality. Okay. So economic inequality is measured using distribution of what? Distribution of income or wealth. Okay, it is measured using Gini coefficient. On the other hand, social inequality is measured by distribution of what is social inequality? Distribution of basic services like education. So we can say that there is social inequality in the nation if the accessibility as well as the quality of education, health, good living conditions, all these are provided. Okay, good living conditions, etc. So this is what is social inequality. Okay, now we can go on because we need to create a connection between the intro and the body. That is very important. Otherwise, it looks very abrupt. And what is the connection? The connection is India, right? We are not going to make this a global essay because number one, we have just 400 words. हमारे पास कितने words हैं? We have just about 400 words to write it. Number one, and secondly, because if we make it a global essay, give global arguments, then it might become very confusing as well, because explaining in this limited space is going to be very difficult. So let's include an Indian concept here on, or the idea of India here, so that we can continue in the body. Okay, so we say in India, despite high economic growth or consistent economic growth since 1991, we have seen a rise in inequality. Something like this we can write, right? And so the following steps can be taken to reduce inequality in India and around the world. So we are just ignoring the concept of, or the idea of, whether it is the market or it is the government which can take care of inequality. Okay, we are in fact focusing more on the concept of inequality itself. तो हमने वो ignore भी कर दिया है. अभी हम वो फिर से लेके आएंगे. We'll try and include it again when we are explaining about the various ways in which inequality can be targeted, can be reduced, right? We will do that, but we have not mentioned it anywhere in the introduction because we want to keep it simple. We don't want any argument in the introduction. Okay. So the first point that I've taken, because you're going for, let's say, NABARD examination, RBI examination, SEBI examination, जो भी आप एग्जाम लिख रहे हो, यूपीएससी थोड़ा सा अलग हो जाता है, बट इफ यू आर गोइंग फॉर दीज थ्री रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज, then your first point should be always about finance or money. Okay, companies. So that is important. That becomes important, especially because you're going for these regulatory bodies. So you can probably write about taxation because that affects all these three bodies, or you can write about companies. I picked up the first point as companies. How are companies connected here? Uh, Pranit is asking, can we add a small Gini index fact of India? Yes, you can. Of course, facts are always very, very rewarding. You can do that as well. Okay. According to Gini coefficient, India's Gini index is at 0.457, I think, if I'm not wrong, which is very high compared to other countries in the same economic growth cycle. Okay. So the first point is an inefficient market, because now we have to talk about market as well. An inefficient market that rewards the rich by giving them more and punishes the poor by taking away what they have, needs to be replaced by an efficient market system. Okay. Regulatory bodies like RBI and SEBI, or RBI, SEBI, and NABARD, you can say, can play a big role here. Okay. Corporate, where am I going? I'm going towards corporate governance. Corporate governance norms that put a ceiling on remuneration of directors and CEOs, and ensures salary equality or equality of salary among the employees, can be a big reform towards equality of society. So what are we saying? We are saying that how can the market correct or help in reducing inequality? The market can help in reducing inequality by rewarding people according to their work and not according to their post. Number one, you can use those terminologies as well, or rewarding people in such a manner that there is equality. Okay, rewarding people in such a manner that there is equality in the entire system. अभी क्या होता है, even when there is a loss in the company, the directors, the CEOs, they reward themselves with bonuses at times. This is what happens. But at the same time, people are getting fired. The employees at the bottom of the organization are getting fired. Okay, so this is an inefficient method which breeds inequality. Okay, now because we are going for regulatory bodies, that's why I felt that this can be the first point. It can be a little different. Relevant, yes, very relevant. Different, yes. Not everybody is going to think about this point. We would rather focus on the obvious reasons of inequality. कि भाई education दो, skill दो, healthcare दो, okay, labor में reforms करो. Those are the basic points. Those are the obvious points. So I thought let's try and write something which is relevant and at the same time a little different. Okay. Similarly, reforms to provide more micro loans. So now I'm going towards finance. Similarly, reforms to provide more micro loans to individuals and MSMEs can bring more financial equality. So I'm talking about equality of corporate governance and at the same time financial equality in the country. How can it be brought? By giving more micro loans. It is very important. That is why Dr. Rajan came out with this concept of differentiated banks plus universal banks. The idea was these individuals and MSMEs need empowerment at the micro level. Okay, the government needs to work as a watchdog here, so that the market can bring more economic and social equality. So I'm connecting it with the introduction. I'm saying economic and social equality through financial reforms. Okay, so this is how I am moving forward with the topic. इस तरह से मैं आगे चल रहा हूँ. I've brought about 2 points here. Number one, corporate governance reforms. Number two, financial reforms. Okay. Now the second point that I want to bring about is about taxation. Okay, so uh, we can say that we need a system where progressive tax forms a majority of government's revenue. Okay, a progressive, developing, let's say, society or country, a society, developing society ensures that the of progressive progressive taxation holds majority in the revenues of the government. Okay, we can start with this. In India, presently in India, more than 50% of revenues come from indirect taxation, which is regressive in nature. Okay, so what am I saying here? That the government can bring in equality by making sure that progressive taxation holds a majority of the revenues of the government, whereas indirect taxation is only a minority. But the reverse is happening in India presently, and this is breeding inequality again. Okay, this increases inequality. In India, more than 50% revenues come from indirect taxation. This increases inequality in the country by taxing the poor more. Okay, inequality can be reduced only if distribution of income happens from the rich, which is how progressive taxation works, happens from the rich to the poor, and not vice versa. Okay, this is very important. So this is about the ratio of direct versus indirect taxation. I'm saying that if we want inequality in financial terms, we need to make sure that we are having more revenues from progressive taxation and limited revenues from regressive taxation, which is indirect taxation. Okay, I want to keep on going with taxation, but I would wait for a while. I would rather mix it up a little bit and talk about certain social inequality factors. Okay, so let's start with that. Qualitative, let's start with the education, health. These are very important. Qualitative and free education, right? Universal and free healthcare are the pillars of an equal society. What are the pillars of an equal society? Education and healthcare. Okay, because because they help in enhancing the productivity of the poor to compete. Why are they the pillars? That is very important. That is where majority of students falter, not only in RBI, SEBI, NABARD, etc., but also in UPSC. रीजन नहीं देते हैं, दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. रीजन नहीं दोगे तो एग्जामिनर को समझ नहीं आएगा कि तुम्हें कितना आता है कितना नहीं आता है. ओके, why are these the pillars? Because they help in enhancing the productivity of the poor to compete with the rich. They enable competition between the poor and the rich. Okay, the government and the private sector. So I'm first of all I talked about the importance of the private sector. Then I talked about importance of the government. Now I'm saying both the government and the private sector need to work together to enhance productivity, productivity, productivity of the have-nots, so that they can move up the ladder of prosperity. Okay, one thing that you can see here is there is limited facts. Okay, limited facts I have included here. So that is one thing that you can include if you want to. That is your comfort. Of course, it provides more flexibility, so you should have as many facts as possible. I focused more upon writing some novel, writing some new kind of reasons, kind of examples, kind of explanations, rather than just talking about the good old explanations, good old reasons. Okay, so I've told them that education and healthcare are the pillars, but I've also told them why are they the pillars. Okay. And the government and the private sector need to work together in this. Okay. The first can be about labor reforms. So, very, very important. Labor reforms can empower the employees so that they are not exploited by the corporates. Okay. By the corporates, and they have the freedom to climb the ladders of success. Sorry, progress. Let's have progress. Okay. Presently, so now I'm including some current affairs. Labor codes of India limit expansion of both employees and employers, affecting or breeding or increasing inequality. Okay, these are the words that you can use. So I briefly talked about labor reforms, how labor reforms are important, and then we talk about what is the situation in India. Okay, Ajay Deep is asking a question. Don't you think that first we can write more on cause of inequality, then we can move to steps we can take? You can do that, but you don't have the space. आपके पास space कितना है? 400 words. Okay. What are the causes of inequality? Very good point, but more relevant for UPSC. Why? Because वहाँ पे लिखना होता है 1,200 words. Here you have to write in 400 words. Here the question is very clear. Inequality can be reduced by what? So we have to tell the examiner how can you reduce inequality. We don't have to tell the examiner why is inequality caused in the first place. I hope you're getting it. I hope you understand why am I not talking about the causes. Okay. The next and the last point that I have, 4 or 5 points are more than enough. The next and the last point is a new point, a global corporate tax to equalize to equalize equalize taxation of corporates where they earn money can also help in better distribution of resources globally. We will talk about, don't worry, we'll talk about some more points also which could have been written. तो आपको ज़्यादा fodder मिल जाएगा. The idea of this writing this essay is to help you understand what am I thinking, how am I writing, why am I writing such points, because we are sitting for regulatory exams. Money, finance has to be the core. Rural development, social justice has to be the core. These are the cores. Okay. A global corporate tax to equalize taxation of corporates where they earn money can also help in better distribution of resources globally. Presently, what happens presently, many MNCs earn a significant portion of their revenues. So this here I'm putting the onus on the market from developing countries like India, right? But they take away all their profits to developed tax havens. Okay, this affects distribution of income between, so what is happening here, not between the rich and the poor, between developing and developed countries. Okay, so I've taken a new side here again. Now, what are the other points? So, if you want to tell me, you can put it down here in the chat box. What are the points that you can think of can reduce or can help in reducing inequality so that we can talk about that? Okay. Arnab has given a very good point that can be mentioned in the idea of education, where we talked about education. Free education can be provided through different e-learning platforms of government like Swayam and Diksha. Beautiful, beautiful point. Let me just copy this point here and I'm going to try and include it here. Okay. So let's see if it works. Okay, it did, but only to a limited extent. That's okay. Okay, I cannot increase the font of this, but it's okay. So this shows that there are certain important things that you can also provide that will be helpful. Okay. So he's given an example of a government scheme, which is always very important. Okay. Chaitanya is saying education policies. Yes, the national education policy. Beautiful point. You would have written about the national education policy also. The national, let me write in another font. Let's say from here, National Education Policy 2020 uh, tries to inculcate, okay, quality education and universal accessibility. Quality education through innovation and universal accessibility in order to fill the gap of inequality. Okay, beautiful point again here. National education could be written. एकलव्य स्कूल फैसिलिटी विग्नेश इज अ गुड पॉइंट बट थोड़ा सा पुराना हो गया है. एकलव्य इज अ वेरी ओल्ड मॉडल. देर आर अदर पॉइंट्स दैट could be written that are more new. That's why they're more important. Sheetal has mentioned a very good point. CSR, corporate social responsibility. It could be mentioned here along with corporate governance. CSR, okay, also ensures CSR also ensures contribution of the private sector towards social equality and justice. Social equality and justice. Okay. Okay. So this is another point. Very good one. Investment in MSMEs and agriculture sector that we've already mentioned. In the finance, government needs to work as a watchdog. No, it was somewhere else. Investment in lending, more lending to the MSMEs. That was one of the points here mentioned. I don't know where is it gone. Yes, here it is. Similarly, reforms to provide more microloans to individuals, let's say farmers and MSMEs can bring more financial equality. Okay. FDI in agriculture, yes, that can be one of the points. NFHS survey in healthcare. You can mention facts from NFHS survey of healthcare. If you have any facts in hand, you can do that as well. There are 1,000 students, there are 10,000 students, there are 10,000 different answers that you're going to cover. Okay. आपको दो तीन चीज ध्यान में रखनी है. नंबर वन, वट एवर यूर राइटिंग शुड बी रेलिवेंट. इरेलीवेंट चीजें नहीं लिखनी है. वट इज नॉट आस्क्ड शुड नॉट बी मेंशन्ड. नंबर वन. Number two, the word limit has to be kept in mind. If it is 400, the max that you can go is about 450, 460, not more than that. If you're writing it in 800 words, then you are going all aboard, going too much overboard, in fact, and therefore it will be very counterproductive. Okay, थोड़ा बहुत increase कर सकते हो, but not too much. The points that I'm getting are very, very good. Hiranti is saying gender budgeting. Yes, very important for reducing inequality. That is another point where the government can work towards increasing gender equality. That is a very beautiful point. Okay. Soumya is asking, can we talk about specific acts that bring gender equality among laborers, like Equal Remuneration Act? You can just specify them. You don't have to talk about them in detail. Okay. Sneha, you can mention 15% tax rate approved, but I'm saying that there should be a global corporate tax. Okay. So I'm telling that there should be something like this. Okay. One nation, one ration card can bring in equality for the deprived section. Yes, there are a lot of examples like this. Government schemes तो आप जितना डालोगे उतना बेटर है. तो दो तीन स्कीम्स डालो, मज़ा आएगा आपको डालने में और एग्जामिनर को पढ़ने में. Okay, very, very useful government schemes. Here, when we talked about labor reforms, the new labor code could have been mentioned. I did not mention it knowingly because I was thinking कि आपके तरफ से आएगा, it will be much better. Secondly, qualitative and free education. हेल्थ केयर, यहाँ पे आप बहुत सारे स्कीम्स डाल सकते हो एज स्टूडेंट्स पॉइंटेड आउट, जैसे कि स्वयं दीक्षा। हेल्थ केयर में देर इज आयुष्मान भारत, दैट कुड हैव बीन मेंशन्ड। ओके, द focus is what? Accessibility, universal accessibility through insurance, right? That is also bringing in equality. Okay, yes, you can mention ASER data for illiterate inequality for education. Population control, how does population control, Nihai Singh, population control, how does population control contribute towards more equality? Chaitanya has mentioned a good point again. Improving digital literacy. Digital literacy. Very good point. Okay, Neha, can you explain how a population control can directly affect inequality or equality? There is a connection, no doubt. There is a connection, no doubt. But the connection is a little too far-fetched. Okay. Population control hoga, allocation of resources will be better. You will require less resources. You will not have to expand too much on your resources, and that will bring in equality. Okay, थोड़ा सा लंबा हो जाता है. Achieving sustainable development goals, डाल सकते हैं, but you will have to explain how does it help in equality. Startups too far-fetched. If we have the facility same as mentioned in PM Cares for Children scheme, did not understand. By giving sufficient resources distribution, that is the definition of reducing inequality. Employee skilling programs by government and private sector, yes, very good. Mohalla clinic by Delhi government, yes. Primary, see why I am not talking about all those, because अभी जो दो topics और हैं उनमें ये सब बातें की गई हैं. So I did not want a lot of repetition, that's why वो बातें अभी यहाँ पे नहीं की गई हैं. But here when we're talking about healthcare, then the point that who has mentioned this? Anshul has mentioned is about primary healthcare, the importance of primary health. That can, of course, help in reducing inequality. How? Because primary healthcare is focused on preventive measures. That is the difference. Whereas secondary and tertiary healthcare is focused on curative measures towards healthcare. It is curative in nature, this is preventive in nature. So, आपको जुकाम हो गया, if you have a cold or a fever, the doctor will not directly say, take this medicine. He will try and help you uh, help you have immunity against the virus, against the bacteria. Okay, help your body create immunity, generate immunity against the bacteria, so that you don't have it again at all. You're not dependent upon medicines. That is the idea of preventive healthcare, which is possible only in the private primary healthcare system. Okay, that is why mohalla clinics are so important. Okay. Can we add fundamental rights about inequality? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. A small point on NPO hospitals. This will help the poor to get free healthcare. Yes, you can mention that also. Skill development programs. Yes, very good point. Something that we did not write. It helps in reducing inequality. How does it help in reducing inequality? It provides immediate employability. See, whenever you are reading something, anything in ESI, the beauty is that you will always have a reason. आपके पास always हमेशा एक reason होगा, हमेशा एक justification होगा. You just have to find that reason. You just have to find that justification. Okay. So why skill development, or how will skill development help in reducing inequality? Immediate employability. आपने skill develop करी, employment मिल गया, you start earning. Now you're not going to be included in crime, you're not going to be attracted towards drugs, etc., because you have something to do in life. You have a job, you have some work. So this is helping you rise the ladder of progress, rise in the ladder of growth. Okay, reducing inequality. Okay, Harpreet is asking, can we suggest some suggestions while writing? No, not required. Tribal schemes, yes, you can mention them also. Food inequality, yes, I think Manav has mentioned a very good point here, something that we missed. Food inequality, okay, through food security, National Food Security Act, okay. This will help in reducing food inequality. Very good point. Public distribution system, very important. Yeah. Financial literacy, very good, very important. Yeah. Digital literacy, financial literacy. Similarly, financial literacy. See, now we have so many points. 5 या 6 पॉइंट तो मैंने लिखे थे. 1 2 3 4 points. Then we have 1 2 3 4 5 more points. एक दो points मैंने लिखे भी नहीं है यहाँ पे. So we already have 10 11 points. These many points are more than enough. You can just try and have justifications or some facts related to some interesting things related to these points, and that will be enough for you. Okay, that will do the job. Okay, now let's move forward. देखो 40 मिनट में हमने essay लिख भी लिया, discuss भी कर लिया. So if I can discuss the essay in 40 minutes with you, write the essay in 40 minutes with you guys together, then I think you can very well write it in 25 30 minutes. 30 मिनट में लिख सकते हो, बहुत अच्छा है. Okay, now let's talk about, let's take a Prezi. I think I should be taking a Prezi now. Once again, I'll have to make some changes. Screen दूसरी लेते हैं अभी, and let's pick up a Prezi. So you will have to read along with me, of course. One second. Okay. So this is the Prezi. You will have to read along with me. I hope you can see the Prezi now. Yes. उत्कर्ष अभी वही तो किया. अभी आई प्रोवाइडेड यू जनरल बुलेट पॉइंट्स. अभी कंक्लूजन इसमें डिस्कस नहीं किया. आई थिंक वो रह गया. आई हैव रिटन अ कंक्लूजन, बट आई थिंक वी मिस दैट. इट्स ओके. We have 2 more essays to go. We'll take up a conclusion as well. This is what we did, Utkarsh. After finishing off the essay, we took down some more bullet points based upon the responses of students like you, and उसके basis पे हमें बहुत सारे bullet points मिल गए. Luna has mentioned another beautiful point: positive discrimination. Okay, reservation, very important for reducing inequality. Okay, this is a Prezi, and there will be 2 questions based upon this Prezi as well. So we will be taking this thing simultaneously. Let's start reading the Prezi. The Prezi says the IMF has not exactly stood on the sidelines during the COVID-19 pandemic. Since the onset of the crisis, it has extended loans worth 130 billion to 85 countries and provided debt service relief to some poor countries. Yet, given the severity of the pandemic and IMF's ample balance sheet, its lending capacity was boosted to a cool 1 trillion after the global financial crisis. You might have expected more. So what is the original article or the paragraph talking about? It is talking about the steps taken by IMF during the COVID crisis. Okay, it has given an example of what IMF did during the global financial crisis, but it is talking about the steps taken by IMF in order to deal with the COVID crisis. On July 8th, the fund took what looks like a big step in the right direction by deciding to create 650 billion in new foreign exchange. And finally, it has mentioned the final step which has been taken by IMF in order to deal with the COVID crisis. Okay. Now, let's see what the second paragraph says. The plan does not involve direct lending to countries. It is explaining the step taken by IMF. What is the step? $650 billion of allocation of new SDRs. Okay. Allocation of new SDRs worth $650 billion. This is what has been, this is the step which has been finalized by the IMF. So it is an explanation of this step. The plan does not involve direct lending to countries nor draw on the IMF's balance sheet. It instead entails creation and allocation of SDRs. Okay, a quasi currency, it is an explanation of the SDRs here. ये पूरा SDR का explanation चल रहा है यहाँ पर. What is an SDR? A quasi currency created in 1960s in an effort to boost the supply of high quality reserve assets such as dollars and gold. Okay. SDRs are valued against a basket of several major currencies and can be swapped for those currencies if the need arises. There are no conditions attached to the use of such funds, and the associated interest rate is minimal. So this is the advantage of SDRs over any other kind of fund, any other kind of asset. Interest rate is less. No conditions. Governments pay as low as 0.05% with no deadline. So advantage of borrowing in SDR. ये सब चीज़ें एडवांटेज बता दिया यहाँ पर. बेसिकली अब हम स्ट्रक्चर कर रहे हैं बिफोर गोइंग फॉरवर्ड विद द प्रेसी राइटिंग. Simultaneously, while reading the paragraph, we have to start structuring it. We have to start converting it into bullet points. जैसा अभी आई थिंक उत्कर्ष और समवन हैड पॉइंटेड आउट, हमको बुलेट पॉइंट्स में कन्वर्ट करता है. सो व्हाट इज द बुलेट पॉइंट? फर्स्ट बुलेट पॉइंट इज स्टेप्स टेकन बाय IMF. सेकंड बुलेट पॉइंट इज, अगर मेरे दिमाग में भी चल रहा है जो, वी माइट रिप्लेस इट और चेंज इट लेटर. Second bullet point is explanation of the step taken by IMF here, which is allocation of new SDRs. What is the advantage of allocation of new SDR? Such allocations are a familiar crisis fighting tool. It happened in 2009 also, that's what it says. An allocation during the pandemic might have come sooner were it not for early opposition from America. यहाँ पे थोड़ा explanation दिया हुआ है, which is meant to distract you. Okay. However, now backs an allocation, blah, 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 not important. The fund's board of governors will vote on the disbursement. If as expected, it is approved, SDRs will be told out later that month. So it has mentioned the step taken by IMF, allocation of new SDRs, and it has also mentioned the benefit of allocating new SDRs in a crisis. कभी भी एक क्राइसिस होता है, what is the benefit of allocating new SDRs? This becomes our major second bullet point. I think now the voice should be better. Archana, just let me know if the voice is better now. I think now it should be much better. Okay. So the second major bullet point is benefit of allocating new SDRs in a crisis. Okay. Third point क्या बनेगा? Whether countries draw it on it or not, the extra reserve cushion should lift market confidence and reduce the risk that a draining away of foreign exchange leads to a BOP crisis. Again, the extra reserve cushion should lift market confidence, another advantage, and reduce the risk of BOP crisis, another advantage, or the need. We can talk about the need as well. Okay. Additional reserves may come in specially handy if a rip-roaring economic recovery leads to higher interest rates that could precipitate an outflow of money and weaken currencies, leading to straitened financial circumstances and higher import prices. ये पूरी chain बताई हुई है. They've mentioned the chain of how a crisis can result in a forex crisis in another country. How a global crisis of any kind can result in BOP or forex crisis in a developing nation, especially in a developing nation. Okay, because there will be flight of capital from developing towards developed nations. Okay, so that is what can be our fourth point, how a crisis can turn into a BOP crisis, how a global crisis like COVID can turn into a BOP crisis for developing nations. Okay. Yet the huge headline figures sounds more generous than it really is. Now they're talking about another dimension, the negative side. Okay. They're saying, okay, it looks very generous, but it is not so good. What is the problem? The new SDRs will be distributed broadly in proportion to the funding countries provide. So this is the problem with the step. How the step is not going to be as effective as it is thought to be. Or why is it not going to be as effective as it is thought to be? Because allocation जो होगा, let's say US has a proportion of, let's say 40% in SDR allocation. Okay, I'm not very sure. I think it is somewhere around 16% or something, if I'm not wrong. लेट्स से इट इज 40%, देन 650 बिलियन का 40% जो फंड होगा वो जाएगा, दैट विल गो टू द यूएस. What that means is that a country which does not even need this much money, a country that does not even need this much funds, is going to receive it from IMF. So the money is giving in the wrong money is going in the wrong hands. It should be going towards developing nations, but it is going towards the developed nations, and that is what is mentioned here. आप पढ़ो इसको, please go through it. Meaning that the rich world will receive more than half the allotment. Low income countries will receive a mere 3.2 of the total, equivalent to 21 billion, or roughly 4% of their combined output before the pandemic. Okay. In order to redress the imbalance, the rich countries will with little use are working out ways to donate. So how are the rich countries reacting to this? They are saying कि हमें जो whatever allocation we will receive, we will donate a part of it to the developing nations. और उसका ही यहाँ पर explanation है. Okay. The financial contortions behind SDRs invite criticism. Republicans in America's Congress fear or fret that the allocation will little help to poor nations while giving a windfall to rivals like China and Russia. So it's a repetition of the same thing. They're proving their point that it is going to help more, help countries like China and Russia and US more than the help which is required for developing nations. Okay, तो हमारे पास एक bullet points बन गए. Number 1, steps taken by IMF. Number 1 bullet point. Second, benefit of allocating new SDRs in a crisis. Number 1. Number 3, the need of SDR allocation. So there's a difference between benefits and need. Okay. And fourth point, what is the problem with the step? Fourth point is, what is the problem with this step? यही मैंने यहाँ पे प्रेसी के स्ट्रक्चर में. So here I can show you a structure of the presi. The structure says IMF can contribute in fight against a crisis by issuing new SDRs. Okay. What is it? New, or we can say step taken by IMF. Right? Secondly, the second bullet point was benefit of more SDRs. I have divided into 3 bullet points. देखो छोटे से में से 3 bullet points निकाल दिए. Increase supply of high quality reserve assets like dollars and gold. Countries can swap SDR for dollar. तो countries को liquidity मिल जाती है. Now whatever SDR India has, let's say India के पास 1 billion SDR आते हैं. So it can swap it and convert it into gold, which can help it in its forex reserve requirements. Okay. You can borrow SDRs from IMF at very low interest rates, as low as 0.5%. Now, if the Indian government wants to borrow by issuing bonds, itna interest rate chal raha hai, 4%, 4.5%. But you can borrow at such a low rate from the IMF, 0.05%, not even 0.5%, 0.05%. Okay. Save countries from BOP crisis. BOP crisis is faced when a country runs out of forex reserves. With SDR allocation, the country can use SDRs to meet forex liability. Whenever there is a BOP crisis, you can meet that using SDR allocation. Need for SDRs in the future. That is the third bullet point. Okay, what will happen or why will there be a need for SDR in the coming future? जैसे ही economic recovery होती है, I mentioned the chain here. US dollar will appreciate, interest rates in US will increase, and currencies across the world would depreciate against dollar. Outflow of funds from countries to US would depreciate currencies further. Imports would then become expensive. SDR cushion will help in such a situation. So SDR allocation, जो भी extra होगा, that will help in this chain of events. That is what I mentioned here. And what is the problem with the plan? Problem क्या है? Allocated in proportion to the funding provided by countries to IMF, that is, rich countries will get more. Now there is a sample presi. एक sample presi भी बना दिया है so that you can understand how I have written the same thing in, let's say, 200 words. That is the target of this particular paragraph. Okay. Sample title, आपका अपना title हो सकता है. Please do not copy this or do not do this activity कि भाई सर ने जो लिखा है वही लिख देते हैं. Okay. IMF's plan to allocate more SDRs. अब मैंने क्या किया, जो भी बुलेट पॉइंट्स हैं वो यहाँ पे भी डाल दिए. देखो, IMF's plan to allocate more SDRs. Point number 1, the need, advantage and associated problems. Advantages was point number 2, need was point number 3, इसमें because need is causes, advantages is the benefits or the result. That is why I mentioned need first and associated problem point number 4. बहुत ही सिंपल सा आपको टाइटल रखना है which includes the gist of the entire article. जो help करे, which helps the examiner understand whether you have understood the article or not. Okay. Very small title, very easy to remember, easy to explain title. Okay. Anshul is asking title to be written when asked in question, or we have to write it always. It's better if you write it. Okay. लिख दोगे तो better है. I would not recommend not writing it even if it is not mentioned. If it is mentioned specifically, do not give a title. Then of course, do not give a title. Okay. The fight against COVID. Now, this is a sample press. The fight against COVID is not limited to saving lives in hospitals. Introduction दिया है थोड़ा सा, so that it does not feel like I'm copying something from another article. It should feel complete. That is the gist. But see, what is the most important parameter of a pressy? It should feel complete. Okay? It should feel in flow. मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि भाई the points that you're providing are not connected with each other. There is no connecting line between the points. Okay, that is very important. Completion होना चाहिए. ऐसा लगना चाहिए this is an individual article. That's very important. Okay, and that comes when you keep analyzing your own performance again and again and again. We'll do it in the next 1 month. उससे वो easily आ जाएगा. Okay. The fight against COVID is not limited to saving lives in hospitals. The global financial system is very vulnerable at the moment. So I've mentioned the importance of what we are discussing or about to discuss. Relevance बता दी उसकी. Any mishap can break apart the entire system in a snap. IMF can contribute in the fight against the crisis by issuing new SDRs. Here I've mentioned point 1 also. उसके साथ में point 1 घुसा दिया that IMF can contribute towards in fighting against the crisis by doing this, by allocating more SDRs. Okay. Now I'm coming to the second point, which is advantages. There are many benefits associated with new allocation of SDRs. So firstly, I said, okay, there is a COVID crisis, but it is not limited to hospitals. There is a financial crisis which can affect the entire world. The financial system is very vulnerable at the moment. The IMF is taking steps to deal with this vulnerability by issuing more SDRs. Now, what are the benefits of SDRs? It is expected to increase supply of dollars and gold as countries can swap SDR for dollars. Member countries can borrow SDRs. Need for additional SDRs has been member countries. This will provide liquidity of forex to many countries. तो मैंने 2 points यहाँ पे डाले हैं instead of 3 points. I mixed the third point with the need. Okay. तो मैंने पहले when I started writing, I thought these 3 points can work, but then I thought BOP, the same points, let's mix them and let's limit it to need. Okay. Need for additional SDRs has been felt during and after every financial crisis because US dollar appreciates, making other currencies less valuable. The cost of import increases, making them vulnerable to a BOP crisis. SDR can save countries from such a crisis. This is the need of allocating new SDRs. Okay. And then the conclusion, the plan of allocation is not without its own problems. That was the last point. SDRs will be allocated in proportion to the funding provided by countries, which means that rich countries will get more. The purpose of supporting poor countries might be defeated if SDRs do not reach them. You can also add another line saying that the developed nations have thought of a solution by donating or by committing to donate majority of their SDR allocation to developing nations. That's all. You put a full stop to the entire article beautifully through a very brief précis. तो देखो इस तरह से précis लिखना है. You can have as many paragraphs as you want. Every point can be a separate paragraph. Why is it not going to matter? Is because when you write for RBI, SEBI or NABARD examination, I'm writing like this, but when it goes to the examiner, he will not see it in paragraph format. He will see a big gap here, just like a space bar, and then the next paragraph here. So he would know that you've changed the paragraph, but it does not look very nice. Okay. Therefore, I think you should write in different paragraphs because he knows and he feels that you're changing paragraphs. and every point can be a different paragraph if you want it to be like that. Okay, there is no limitation on writing a pressy in one paragraph only. Okay. Okay, now let's come to the answers based upon the same article. Same article मैंने लिया है so that we don't have to read the entire article again. Okay, the first question is, what are the expected benefits from IMF's decision to create and allocate additional SDRs? I'm going to mention all the 3 points because the more points, the better it is, the more the merrier. I'm going to introduce the topic here again. I have taken a lot of points from the Pressy, from what I explained in the Pressy, but you can write in your own words as well. Okay. The fight against COVID, not limited to saving lives in hospitals, global financial system is very vulnerable. Any mishap can break the system. IMF can contribute by issuing new SDRs. There are many benefits associated with new allocation of SDRs. What are these benefits? Number one, supply of dollars and gold. Number two, countries can borrow. And number three, it will provide. Number three, it will save countries from BOP crisis. ये points मैंने explain किए. Then there is a conclusion. The plan of allocation is not without its own problems. SDRs will be allocated in proportion to the funding provided by countries. So in short, I'm just repeating what I mentioned in the Pressy. Okay, you can do that, but do it smartly by using different words, using different sentences. Do not just copy paste the entire Pressy in the answers, in the comprehension answers also. Okay. The next question is, what is the need to allocate additional SDRs? अब ये question है need पे. There was only one need mentioned and therefore the answer might be very short. तो उसको लंबा कैसे करना है? देखो, I have explained what is an SDR. SDR is an international reserve asset valued by a basket of 5 currencies. It provides additional liquidity, cushion, and low interest borrowing for member countries. Benefits डाल दिए मैंने. After the global crisis, IMF agreed on a distribution of 250 billion to provide the much needed liquidity and financial support. So this is one example of uh, how required or how needed SDRs are. Need for additional SDRs has been felt during and after every financial crisis. I'm connecting it with the global financial crisis, taking it forward, saying that after and during every kind of financial crisis, there is a need for more SDRs because it provides the cushion that middle income countries need, in middle income and low income countries need, in order to save themselves from a BOP crisis. Okay, that is the need. Okay, इस तरह से हमने पूरे क्वेश्चन को आंसर किया है. वी ट्राई टू stretch it. You should have that ability, or that you have to learn that art of stretching whenever a question's answer requires stretching, or compressing if and when a question's answer requires compression. जैसे आपको you have to write, let's say, an essay. आपको essay लिखना है. So you have to learn that art of writing an essay in 400 words and writing the same essay in, let's say, 1,000 words. Okay. तो वो एक आर्ट आपको आनी चाहिए. You don't have to develop it if you're not preparing for UPSC, but it will be very useful in the Pressy and the comprehension if you want to score well. Okay. We're done with 1 hour. Let's take one more essay topic. Okay. Although I prepared two, but let's take one more essay topic. I have another very nice essay topic with me here. Okay. So now you can see the open board again. Okay, it's the same. Yes. So let's use the same. Yeah. इसी को use करते हैं. Yes, Dolly, you have to do all these things. Okay. Whatever you've mentioned, you have to do all these things. Okay, what was the next topic I was going to take? 1 second. Okay, very interesting topic, directly related with NABARD as well. काफी interesting topic भी है and directly connected with NABARD as well. Okay, the topic is need. 1 second. Need of the hour is to maximize possibilities of agriculture in India. Okay, this is the topic that we have. Need of the hour is to maximize possibilities of agriculture in India. ये हमारा topic है and we have to write on this. Okay. What are the keywords here? Agriculture, possibility, मतलब opportunities. Need of the hour is to expand or maximize opportunities of agriculture in India. Okay. तो सबसे पहले let's create a rough introduction. What should be there in the rough introduction? एक rough introduction बनाते हैं. Let's follow a different approach. Rough introduction, rough, body and rough conclusion. Let's create that. So, need of the hour is to maximize opportunities in agriculture in India. So, we have to talk about importance of agriculture in India. That is why, that is how we can move forward and explain why is it so important to maximize opportunities of agriculture in India, because agriculture is so important for India. Okay, that is a logical conclusion. Importance of agriculture in India, that should be our intro. So I would, if I'm to write about importance of agriculture, I would write about employability of agriculture in India. More than 50% of the working population is directly dependent upon agriculture. Okay, I would also try and provide some philosophical context by saying that it is not just a profession, it is a way of life. Very briefly, you don't have to get too much into it. Please remember that more facts, more tangible points are more relevant and more rewarded. Okay. So, this is something through which we can talk about the importance of agriculture in India, right? And then in the body, I can talk about I can talk about the ways in which we can maximize opportunities for agriculture in India. Okay, let's write some points and then I will start with the actual answer. So, what are the points that you think can be mentioned here? Please mention in the chat box. And simultaneously, I will first write the points that I can think of right now. Okay, so we have to maximize opportunities of agriculture in India. How should we do that? Number one, the farmer needs to be empowered. If we want to empower agriculture as a whole, as a profession, we need to empower the farmers. This is, according to me, the most important. And we can mention about doubling farmers' income here by 2022, the new program or the target that India has. Okay. So, farmer needs to be empowered. That is number one. I think very, very important. What else can help us maximize opportunities in agriculture? Private sector. See, whether we believe in it or not, but the reality is that the government and bodies like NABARD favor privatization because they know that the gaps in agriculture can only be filled by the private sector. They don't have that kind of money. Okay. So the second step can be to open the private sector so that agriculture can grow fast. Number two. Okay. The third can be reducing, according to me, reducing dependence of agriculture on weather and monsoon. This is something that I personally feel the government is not very heavily focused on this point, but I feel that it is very important. And countries like Israel are actually taking steps to reduce dependence of agriculture on weather and monsoon. Okay, weather and rains, etc., etc. Okay, what other ways can be followed in order to empower, in order to increase opportunities in agriculture? Financial freedom, I think, very important. If we are able to attract the banks and NBFCs into agriculture, if we can help them finance majority of farmers, then I think it can expand the opportunities in agriculture in India. Something that someone mentioned, food processing, very, very important. In order to expand agriculture's potential in India, we need vertical and horizontal, or we need backward and forward linkages. Backward and forward linkages. And these linkages can only be provided by food processing in agriculture. Backward and forward linkages in agriculture can only be provided by food processing. Okay. So these are the points that I can think of. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you have any more points, feel free to mention. Let us pick them up. Okay. Yes, chill with me saying hydroponics, aquaponics. Yes, that is what I wanted to write about in reducing dependence of agriculture on weather and monsoon. Okay. Can we add mechanized farming? Yes, of course, you can add mechanized farming. Very good point, in fact. Educate farmers about fertilizers. So, empowerment of farmers. Farmer needs to be empowered. That is the first point. You can talk about education also here, right? Availability of information or information symmetry. You can mention information symmetry here. Okay. Information symmetry. Financial, no, what was the other point? Information symmetry. Education of farmers, yes. Education and training of farmers. Okay. Comes in this only. Mixed farming, more use of greenhouses, polyhouses, comes in reducing dependence on weather and monsoon. Encouraging youth to practice agriculture, yes, very, very important. So we can mention entrepreneurship, agripreneurship. Beautiful point. Agripreneurship. Okay, that can be another point. Improved credit availability to farmers, financial freedom aa gaya. It comes under financial freedom. Okay. Soil knowledge, yes, it comes under empowerment of farmer. We're going to mention soil also. More agriculture universities, yes, beautiful point. Again, R&D, it can be a separate point. I think I mentioned it in the first one in the answer that I'm going to explain to you, but yes, it can be a separate point. R&D, very, very important. Training women farmers, developing agri infrastructure, last mile connect. Agri infrastructure comes in privatization, last mile connect comes in privatization. Organic farming, very important. Food processing, organic farming can come in the third point or in the fifth point as well. Insurance and assurance in case of calamities, yes, very important. Financial freedom includes insurance, includes loan facility. Okay, these are all points under financial freedom that you can provide. Improvement in per square land productivity, yes, I will be talking about productivity in one of the points. Beautiful point there. Zero interest rates, जीरो होंगे तो कोई वापस नहीं देगा पैसे. Awareness about global warming, agri related digital marketing, crop security, mixed farming, PPP promotion. PPP, very important, comes in the second point, private sector. Okay. Let's now start writing the essay one by one. पहले intro से शुरू करते हैं, then we'll talk about the body. Okay. What would I write? Importance of agriculture. Agriculture is important for Indian economy and society for multiple reasons. It employs more than 50% of the working population. It is not just a profession but a way of life for the rural India. Okay. So I mentioned 2 points specifying the importance of agriculture. Number one, majority of the population is still employed by agriculture. And number two, it is not just a profession, it is a way of life. Now I'm moving forward. I'm creating the connect considering its importance. This is how you create the connect. You're connecting this, the previous discussion in the introduction, with the next thing that you're going to write. Considering its importance, India has to look for ways to convert agriculture from a sector employing the unskilled and the uneducated to a sector contributing significantly, okay, not majoritarily, significantly towards India's GDP, exporting its produce and becoming a leader in R&D of farming. Okay. So I mentioned that yes, agriculture is important for these reasons, and because agriculture is so important, then India has to convert agriculture from a sector which employs the unskilled and the uneducated presently to a sector which contributes a lot to GDP, which exports, which contributes to exports of India, and in which we can become a leader. So this is one of the introductions that I have mentioned. You can write your own introduction if you want. Okay. Of course, you have to write your own introduction. Now, coming to the body, this much introduction is good enough. There are multiple ways in which agriculture can be modernized. Multiple ways in which agriculture can be modernized to utilize its potential. So what are the ways in which agriculture can be modernized in order to utilize its potential? Okay. The first step is what? The first step was empowerment of farmers. The first step towards improving agriculture in India is to improve the condition of the tiller of the land. Okay, very important. More than 85, again, a fact in order to provide credibility to my argument, or farmers in India are still marginal farmers with land holding. You can write land holding less than 1 hectare if you want to. Land holding so small that they cannot follow advanced technology or export their produce. Okay, look where I'm getting at. I'm going somewhere. So I'm saying that we can enhance the possibilities in farming by, number one, empowering the farmer, improving the condition of the farmer. Then I'm saying the condition of the farmer is very bad presently. How can we improve it? Let me tell you. Okay, so I'm providing the solution also. You can say, another way of saying the same thing is, we need to improve the condition of the farmer. This is how we can improve the condition of the farmer. Okay, that's another way. If FPOs and farmer cooperatives like Amul can be multiplied, so that is the solution that I'm providing, multiplied in every corner of the country, the condition of farmers and farming can be improved. Okay, the productivity of major crops. So I'm providing another fact in order to provide credibility, more credibility to my answer. The productivity, I'm also talking about productivity here. Productivity of crops in India, crops like wheat, major crops like wheat and rice in India is half of productivity, average productivity in China. Okay, this shows us that marginal land holdings and less use of technology is a major contributor towards not only improving condition of the tiller but also in keeping agriculture so primitive in nature in India. Okay, I hope that can be mentioned. Okay, we can mention Swamitwa scheme here. Yes, you can mention Swamitwa scheme. Kisan friendly finance body. Yes, you can talk about that as well. Okay, so this is the first point that I've mentioned. Of course, there are multiple ways of writing the same thing, and all of the things that you're mentioning are very, very good. What was the second point that we had talked about? Opening it to the private sector. What is the advantage? What is the advantage of contract farming? Reduce the risk of sale. Okay, uh, reduce the risk of distress sale. Okay, that is the biggest advantage. Having predictability फॉर फार्मर्स. ओके, नो अनप्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी. अब देखो आप की कंडीशन और फार्मर की कंडीशन सेम है. आई थिंक लास्ट टाइम ऑल्सो आई टॉक्ड अबाउट फार्मिंग, आई मेंशन द सेम थिंग. देर इज नो डिफरेंस बिटवीन योर कंडीशन एंड एग्रीकल्चरलिस्ट और अ फार्मर सिचुएशन इन इंडिया. आप अब सोचो, यू थिंक द अनसर्टेनिटी देन दैट यू आर लिविंग इन, the farmer has to live in that uncertainty for his entire life. How does it feel? Okay, so that is what you can write, not comparing it with your situation but saying that there's a lot of uncertainties in farming because there's a lot of risk involved. You don't know if you're growing tomatoes, then you will be able to sell them at the right time or not. Okay, yes, Anshul, you can write full form also at the because you're mentioning it for the first time. Okay, you can do that as well. That is in fact better. Okay. So what was the second point? Opening up to the private sector. The second step, you can mention first and second in order to let the examiner know that these are the different points that you're mentioning. The second point in achieving possibilities in agriculture is to open it to the private sector, so that I'm providing the reason also. Modernization of agriculture can happen at industrial level. Very important. Agriculture can turn into an industry. That is very important. Contract farming can be useful by reducing the risk of distress sale for the farmer. It can also enhance insurance penetration in Indian agriculture. So, wherever I'm mentioning an argument, I'm always providing the reasoning behind it. Okay, reason देना बहुत जरूरी है, otherwise your point has no value at all. Okay. What is the third point? The third point, you can say, or you can say, the biggest problem in agriculture in India is its dependence. One second. Dependence on weather and monsoon. Okay. There are two solutions here. Firstly, so you can mention there are two solutions here. Firstly, modern techniques, modern techniques like greenhouse farming, like as somebody mentioned, aquaculture, hydroponics. Okay, hydroponics can overcome the dependence on weather changes, or can overcome vulnerability to weather changes. Secondly, modern irrigation techniques can reduce. You can give an example. Modern irrigation techniques like drip irrigation, etc., can reduce dependence on monsoon. Okay, sprinkler irrigation, drip irrigation, etc. And you can now prove it. More than 50% of agriculture in India is still rain fed. You can provide it before also, or you can provide it later also. This affects productivity and production year after year. Okay. So I mentioned that the biggest problem is dependence on weather and monsoon. So if India can overcome these problems, then it can enhance possibilities in agriculture. Okay. Let's bring in some financial points. Financial freedom is a major constraint for small farmers in India. Okay. Considering that 85% farmers are marginal, accessibility of finance is still a major constraint for most farmers. Okay. Schemes or programs like priority sector lending, I'm not writing the full form here, Kisan credit card, or soil health card, etc., need to be taken to every farmer of the country. Why? Financial, so that financial exploitation of farmers can be eliminated. Okay, you can mention something like this. And the last point, of course, food processing, the most important, I think, for the future of the country. Most important. Although I personally don't like packaging everything, but this is something where the world is going, right? Food processing provides, as I had said, backward and forward linkages to agriculture. Okay. How is it important? What does it do? It increases its value, increasing its value at every level. It also makes it exportable. That is how it is important. That is what I'm going to write here. Most developed nations purchase, you can write it in word form or one word also, increasing its value at every level and improving its exportability. That's all you can say. Okay. I decided to explain it further. You can do that as well. Most developed nations purchase food products from developing countries. Okay. Process it and sell it back to the world. Okay. Okay. Earning through what? Earning through value addition. Okay. India can enhance the value of its agriculture by creating a strong food processing sector. Many NGOs, so you can put the names of some NGOs working in food processing sector in India. You can mention those also. Okay. So this is how I have decided to explain the 4 points. As we had identified some more points also, agripreneurship and R&D. We can mention those also. Okay. So we can talk about agripreneurship in order, let's say, in order to enhance possibilities of agriculture in India, in order to enhance, we need uh, the youth to participate in and bring modernization in agriculture. Okay. Agripreneurship is developing as a new industry in India where educated youth is ready to exploit the field and increase contribution of agriculture to India's GDP. So I'm connecting it with the GDP because that's what they're going to do. Okay. Okay, that's what because they're going to set it up as companies, and then the government can tax it later, and even otherwise it is going to contribute towards a higher GDP. Okay, so you can mention that also. And then comes the conclusion where you talk about importance of agriculture. Agriculture is the backbone, so you can talk about food security here. Food security can be the conclusion. I think very important. Agriculture is the backbone of India due to dependence of our people on it and the food security that India needs to feed its 1.4 billion population. With the right financial and strategic support, agriculture can be transformed into a major contributor towards India's growth story. Okay. So the conclusion can be about food security. Okay. Organic farming भी डाल सकते हैं, किसान रेल भी डाल सकते हैं. Yes, these are all very, very good points. Okay. So this was the session on, one second. I hope you can see me now. So this was the session on English. I hope it was useful. बनाए तो थे 3, but I think we could discuss only 2. But it's nevertheless, we had a great time. I think the students were very, very responsive. That is beautiful to see. Blue Revolution. Yes, you can talk about Blue Revolution as well. Yes, I think that's a very good point. Okay. You can talk about revolutions, in fact, Evergreen Revolution, Blue Revolution, you can talk about them as well. Okay. So I believe now you will get a better idea as to how to approach English essay writing as well as Prezi and Comprehension, and how to move forward, what to write, what not to write, right? And we will have these sessions every day, every alternate day. Tomorrow our session is going to be on ESI. Day after tomorrow again we'll have a session on English descriptive only. 10-12 session करेंगे. I think in these number of sessions, चाहे आप enrolled हो, चाहे आप free में पढ़ रहे हो, अपने आप तैयारी कर रहे हो, I am very, very certain that these sessions are going to help you a lot in your upcoming examination. And believe me, descriptive का practice अभी से नहीं करोगे तो phase 1 के बाद भी नहीं कर पाओगे. अभी नहीं करोगे तो कभी नहीं कर पाओगे. Okay. Utkarsh is saying, yeah, okay, of course, you can have one topic. The first topic, the third topic, in fact, that I had created something on was the focus of healthcare is increasingly getting skewed towards the haves of our society. So, one on agriculture, one on inequality, and one on healthcare. The focus of healthcare is increasingly getting skewed. I'm repeating it again. The focus of healthcare is increasingly getting skewed towards the haves of our society. Okay. Okay. I hope it's okay. Chill with me saying our typing speed is half compared to yours. Regularly likho every week, even if you write one paper every week, one test every week, I think that will be enough. Okay. Chalo, all the best, guys. Take care. Bye bye. Have a very good night. Tomorrow, I'll see you again at 8 p.m. and we'll have a beautiful session again on ESI. Make sure that you keep discussing about whatever we are talking here, whatever I am discussing here with you. You keep discussing it within yourselves. Create your study groups if you want to. And I'm very certain ऐसे study group से दो तीन तीन लोगों के study group से uh, you know will help you a lot. All the best, guys. Take care. Bye bye.